And I think a lot of people don't go see Jesse talk because they know Terry Barber's going to be there probably at the same time. But you should, just because Terry's going to call me.
Terry's probably listening right now.
No, you should see Terry Barber talk too. Jill in New Jersey watching on Facebook. You are up next. Your question for Tim.
Hi, Tim. Thanks so much. I was trying to defend the papacy and came up against a couple of things. First of all, I had heard that Isaiah 22:22 can be used to help understand the keys, and I'm not sure I understand that so well. And as well, I was challenged on if if Peter was given specifically the legislative authority of binding and loosing, then how come, a little bit later it was also given to all of the disciples if Peter was so special?
Great questions, both of them. Here's the key. As far as Isaiah 22 goes, we need to understand this in the context of our Catholic understanding of typology. Right? So when you present this to someone, you show them, as you know, Isaiah 22, beginning at verse 15 and going down to verse 22, the context is the prophet approaching Shebna, who is the steward or the master of the palace. He's referred to as different things. This was an office in ancient Israel that's believed goes all the way back to Joseph, who was made, centuries before the steward or master of the palace over Pharaoh's household in Egypt. And so that office continues in the kingdom of God here. And so anyway, the prophet goes to Shebna, who had been wicked. Now, the steward or the master of the palace possessed the key of the house of David. This was a delegated authority that was given to him by the king, so that whatever he opened would... Now, the language used here, as you know, in verse 22 is whatever he opens, none shall shut. Whatever he shuts, none shall open. Why? Because he speaks with the authority of the king. Now, in this particular context, this master of the palace had been wicked, and so the prophet says, God speaking through the prophet says, in that day, in other words, in verse 19, I'm going to thrust you from your office, you'll be cast down from your station. Why? Because you are wicked and haughty, right? And he says, I will call my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, and I will clothe him with your robe. This is providential, of course, because notice there's a succession here. When one master of the palace goes away, there is a succession. That's there just for us Catholics, folks, right? All right. He says, I will call my servant Eliakim, the son of Hilkiah, will clothe him with your robe. I will bind your girdle on him. I will commit your authority to his hand. He shall be a father. Very important there. A father. What do we call the Pope? Papa. Right? That's where papacy or pope comes from, Papa. He will be a father to the inhabitants of Jerusalem and to the house of Judah, which of course is a prophetic statement because Isaiah is speaking at a time when the house of Judah had already collapsed. He's speaking in the context of the northern tribes. This is 700 roughly BC, and so this is a prophetic utterance here. He's going to be a father over the inhabitants of Jerusalem and Judah. Right? Prophecy, the entirety of the people of God. I will place on his shoulder the key of the house of David. He shall open, none shall shut. He shall shut, none shall open. This is extremely important because if you go to Revelation chapter 3, verse 7, you discover Jesus saying, I am he who has the key of the house of David, who will shut and none shall open and none shall shut. He attributes that to himself. Now, some people will say, well, wait a minute. I thought the Pope was supposed to have the keys. Now, Jesus says he has the key. Well, of course he does. It's not, see, and a lot of folks miss this. It's not as though, Eliakim after Shebna, he has the key and so, sorry, king, you don't have any authority anymore. You gave me the key, pal. No, this is a symbol of authority. Of course, the key belongs to the king. The king possesses the fullness of authority over, the kingdom. But it's a delegated authority. In the same way, of course, Jesus has the key. And in fact, some get hung up on, well, it says key, but it's plural. I will give to you the keys in Matthew 16. What's up with that? Well, go to Revelation 1:18. Jesus also says, I have the keys of death and Hades, right? So he says, I have the keys, I have the key, fulfilling Isaiah, as well as fulfilling what it is he communicated to St. Peter. He communicated the keys to St. Peter in a unique way. And now to get to the second part of your question, this is extremely important, okay? He communicates the keys to Peter alone. No one else receives the keys. Now, he mentions this second authority, and whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. That Peter possesses as well. But the keys only Peter. Now we go to Matthew 18:18, and Jesus speaking to all the apostles says, I will give to you, now it's plural. Whereas Matthew 16:18 and 19, it was singular, now it's plural. I will give to you, that is y'all, we would say in Virginia, this authority, whatever you all bind on earth shall be bound in heaven. Well, the point we need to make here is that this authority of binding and loosing is given to all the apostles with Peter. And that's extremely important because Peter alone is given a unique authority of the keys, indicating that Peter can act alone as one man apart from the consensus of the others, as Vatican I defined in 1870. One man apart from the consensus of the others. He doesn't have to take a vote. He doesn't have to stick his finger in the air and see which way the wind is blowing. He has a unique authority. But the apostles and their successors, the bishops, have a collective authority. We refer to this as the college of the apostles, college of the bishops. Their authority, in any definitive sense, is derived from their collective authority in union with Peter. So if they don't speak in union with Peter, guess what? They don't have any authority. It is with Peter. And we see that elsewhere. You know, not just here in Matthew 16 and Matthew 18, but we see it in Luke chapter 22, verses 29 through 32. We see it so plainly when St. Paul says, you know, to the apostles, all 12 of them, he says, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has desired to destroy all of you. Notice he's talking to Peter, but then he says, the devil wants to destroy all of you, but I have prayed for just you, Peter. Right? When you are converted, strengthen your brethren. So in the context of the devil wanting to destroy all the apostles, he gives a unique authority to Peter. And he says, Peter, when you are converted, strengthen your brothers. And so they understood if they want to be, you know, safeguarded from the wiles of the devil, they must act in union with Peter. That's the crucial point there between Matthew 16 and Matthew 18.
Okay, Jill.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's great. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank
God
you
bless
very, very much. So let me just ask you this then, because everything you said, it does bring to mind some current disputes within the church. The other apostles, can they correct? Can they, can they say,
Yes.
hey, wait a minute? And what are the limits of that?
Yes, absolutely they can, when it's something that Peter has not declared definitively. For example,
Oh, I see. Okay.
in Galatians chapter 2, verse 9, St. Paul says he rebuked St. Peter face to face, for he was to be blamed. Now, in that case, Peter was not living up to his own teachings. And Paul makes that point. He says, you're telling everybody they have to live a certain way, and you're not doing
living
it yourself.
Yeah.
You're not eating with the Gentiles. He basically points out his hypocrisy. Now, popes are not impeccable. They're infallible, right? In other words, they're sinners just like we are. Paul was pointing out his sin. Of course, popes can be rebuked. In fact, popes go to confession just like we do. But even more, beyond Galatians chapter 2 there, because that was talking about the personal conduct of the pope, you can also correct a pope. You know, cases like St. Catherine of Siena, who rebuked a pope, called him back. You need to go to Rome.
Yeah.
He was living in France, contrary to God's will. They can be rebuked in that sense. And in matters not infallible, for example, the famous John the 22nd, who taught that the saints in heaven don't have the beatific vision until the end of time, at the second coming. Now, he repented of that, recanted on his deathbed. But the next pope, Benedict, I believe the 12th, defined it infallibly because of the confusion that was called. So caused. So popes can make mistakes in non-infallible teaching, but once they declare the truth of the matter, then the matter is settled.
Tim Staples, thanks so much for another fine hour.
Too much fun, my
It's
friend.
nice to have a bonus hour of open forum with you.
All right, brother.
Coming up next, Dr. Stacy Trasankos, chemist and theologian. We're going to talk about evolution. We're going to talk about evangelizing, all that, and how one is related to the other when we come back on Catholic Answers Live.